Well guys, it's the weekend, you know what that means?
Yeah, it's snowing again.
But that's not going to stop us from doing some suspension work on old grandma, so stay tuned. If this is your first time joining my channel, I just referred to this car as Grandma. This is my 2004 Mercury Grand Marquis that my wife drives as a daily driver. Today we need to put upper ball joints and strut assemblies in the front here, and the reason why is because it's got a broken spring on the passenger side. This car's got 240,000 kilometers on it. If I go and only put one strut on, I've got one new spring and one spring with 240,000 kilometers. So I want to put both of them on. I bought the quick strut assemblies as well as Moog upper ball joints. Let's take a look at those. Show you what we got. So no matter who you're talking to, you join all the Panther platform forums or pages on Facebook, and you ask them, what am I supposed to put on for suspension parts? 90% of the time they'll tell you to go OEM, but secondly, they'll tell you to use Moog suspension components. These are the upper control arms. We're replacing the whole arm. We've got to take this off of the steering knuckle anyway to remove these, and they look like their original equipment, believe it or not. So we are going to replace those. They weren't very expensive. I'm going to leave links in the description box for both of these. We also went with the lifetime warranty Munroe quick strut. Once we get them out of the box, we'll show you what those look like. In the meantime, we've got to get the car up in the air and get the front wheels off it. We can start tearing into the front suspension. Also, now's a good time to tell you, if you haven't done so yet, please hit that subscribe button. We're not trying really to do anything. We're trying to grow the channel. And when you guys hit the like button and hit that subscribe and you comment down below, that lets YouTube's algorithm know that, well, I'm putting out some pretty decent content that you guys like. Hopefully you'll share it as well and get this channel and this video recommended. Anyways, let's get the car up in the air and get to work. So one of the things I like to do before we remove the struts is give the 3 nuts on the top here a spray with some penetrating. We're using Lefty Lucy. And what I'll actually do is once I let that sit for a little bit, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to remove the 3 nuts on each side. That way, once I get the car up in the air, it's one less thing I got to worry about, because, well, then I have to put the car down on the lift, take those nuts off, put it back up. At least this way here, they're already removed. And then once I get everything and all the components taken apart down here, it's just a matter of lifting it out, basically. So I've sprayed both sides down. We're going to get those nuts off, and then we'll put the car up in the air, get to work. So before you get started down here, there's a couple of things that you want to take note. One of them is this bottom bolt here on the lower control arm that holds the strut in place. Well, it's got a little lock on it. That's got kind of pinned in to that head, so you're not going to be able to get anything on that to hold it in place. All you've got is you got this one bolt over here. Once this is out of place, in theory, that strut should just fall down. But what we've got to deal with here is the upper control arm. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to take the upper control arm off by removing the ball joint here and the 2 bolts on the end here. Again, one of the reasons why we're replacing the upper ball joint, because we've got to get it out of the way to remove the strut anyway. But take a look at these bushings right here. The bushings are all cracked and squeezing out. Same thing on this side. It's just showing its age. And I already did the bottom ball joints there last year. I did a video on that, and I will put that right up here somewhere. And when everything's all said and done, we'll have to send it out for an alignment anyway. So why not replace what you need to replace while you're in here, get it all done at once, and pay that alignment fee just the one time. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this bolt out of here, then we'll go to work on the upper control arm. little bit of a tech tip. If you ever get a ball joint or a tie rod that just is spinning with the nut as you're taking that nylon lock nut off, grab yourself a pry bar and find a way to get in there and pry down on it, and it puts pressure on the actual ball joint part through the hole that it goes through, keeping it from spinning. Well, at least most of the time it works. And then you can, wrench that nut off there. Some of you who are seasoned mechanics are going to say, Jason, why didn't you just use an air gun or a ratchet wrench on that? I don't have one that size for some reason. Anyway, we wrenched it off the whole way, prying down. A little bit exhausting. Anyways, now we remove our pry bar, and we should just be able to give a few love taps on that upper, and gets that up out of the way and gets this out of the way so that we can get that strut out of there. So that's going to be the next struggle, is to get that strut and this lower control arm kind of bent down a little bit, get everything out of the way so that we can kind of weasel that out. Now that everything is loose and we got this out of the way, I did have to set the car down and give this strut assembly a little tap down out of its place. So what we're going to try and do now is pry that out with the pry bar and yank it towards me and then lift it out, in theory. There we go. All right, so we've got the strut out, and you can see the exact reason why we're replacing it. Got a broken spring right there, and again, if I had to guess, and if you look at that part number, that is a Ford OEM part number. So either these struts were replaced at one time at Ford, or it's the original equipment. Again, based on the condition of the car and the mileage, I'm guessing that this is probably OEM. And the reason why we didn't take out the upper control arm first, just to get it out of the way rather than frig around with getting it hung up, is because these bolts that hold it in place come through this way. They're little carriage type bolts that are flat on one side, so you got to undo them and then hammer the bolt through this way. And if the strut's in place, well, you can't get those bolts out. So now we can go ahead and get those off, get that upper control arm out, and then we'll take a look at the new part compared to the old ones. Alrighty, so we got the upper ball joint off, and two things that you'll want to keep in mind when you're unboxing. Make sure you know which part number goes on which side. There's an old wives' tale out there that some companies use an even number and an odd number for right and left. I've heard that before, and in some cases it's true, but with Moog, you're getting a number 38 for the right-hand side, you're getting a number 40 for the left-hand side. Always make sure you compare your parts like I'm doing here, lining them up. I did take out the bottom one for the left-hand side, and well, the upper ball joint is actually castered a little bit or cambered a little bit more to the front. So it was easy to tell the difference, but they were so close and very slight. So if you don't know, make sure you're looking them up, and when you find out what they are, label them. No confusion. Your struts, doesn't matter. Same thing left and right, at least on this car. So now what we're going to do is we are going to get our grease fitting in, reverse the whole process. I'm not going to bore you with all that unless I run into some troubles. So we're going to put it to some music and a time lapse. So we've got everything back together and we're tightening everything up. And one thing that you want to make note of is this ball joint. Same thing when you're tightening it up. When you go to put that in, because you're turning it by hand, you may not be able to feel that it's spinning the actual shaft inside. So what you can do is the same thing as making it loose, is just kind of put a little bit of pressure on it with your wrench, go in, tighten it up, and you should be good that way. Last thing we're going to do is put some grease on it and go up top and make sure that we're able to get those 3 bolts that we took out right at the very beginning, and that'll finish up this side. Then we can go over the other side, do it, same thing all over again, and we'll be done this little project on Grandma. One last thing I want to make mention, anytime that you're doing suspension work where you've loosened up control arm bolts, don't tighten them fully until you get the wheels and tires on the car and get that car back down on the ground. You want it sitting on its own weight before you go and you tighten these up. If you don't, you run the chance of binding that up and giving yourself more of a stiff ride than you want and premature wear on these parts. So make sure you get it down on the ground on its own weight before you go ahead and give these your final tightening. Well, there we have it, guys. We've got 2 struts, complete struts, and upper control arms with the ball joint installed on this 2004 Grand Marquis. And you don't need any special tools, honestly. Everything I used was just standard stuff. Wrenches and sockets, a couple of pry bars, and I did it on a hoist, but you don't have to. You could jack the front end up, get those tires off and wheels, and you'd be at it in no time. That time lapse that you just saw may have only lasted, 35, 40 seconds for you or a minute. But I timed myself, and 25 minutes from start to finish to yank this side out and get everything put back together. And I did struggle a little bit with that upper ball joint bolt. But nevertheless, we got it all in there. And on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being super difficult, I would probably rate this like a 2 or 3. It's not that hard. And one of the reasons why everyone says they love these cars so much and why it would make you, if you're younger, a great first vehicle is because the reliability, the ease of working on them. They're still very easy to work on, just like some of the older stuff, and they don't have a ton of electronics like modern cars do today. So the parts are readily available. You didn't have to go with lifetime warranty parts. I did. You can probably get it done a lot cheaper as far as the parts go, but hey, we're going to be keeping this car for a long time, and if we do, trip and fall and bump our head and decide that one day we will sell it, well, we'll be able to stand behind the fact that every time we put parts on it, we used good quality parts and resale value, folks. I mean, these things here, the prices are going up for a lot of reasons. People are using these front ends to swap over. They're swapping the whole truck onto a Crown Vic frame. They are using these 4.6 liter engines because they're super reliable and for hot rodding. And it might be a direction that we go somewhere down the road, but in all reality, I'd hate to tear one of these cars apart for a hot rod project. But anyways, because of that, and because of the likes of, and I'm not blaming Cletus McFarlane, but he's brought the popularity back into Crown Victorias for the sake that he's been turboing and supercharging them for a while. He's been racing them at the Freedom Factory, and he's buying them up at these government auctions. And a lot of guys will say, probably in the comments, that he's driving the prices up. Well, maybe, maybe not. I think what he's doing indirectly is creating a positive head note or whatever on these cars. They're great quality. They can take a beating. They can keep on going. And, he's drawing attention to the fact that, yes, you can hot rod these cars of course he goes full tilt. But like the budget-minded people, you could buy one of these cars today in relatively good condition. Probably, I would recommend 03 and newer if you're looking for something easy to hot rod with this type of suspension anyways. And you should be able to pick up a good one for around $2,000 to $3,000, maybe more if it's lower mileage. 2 years ago, I paid $2,500 for Grandma, Canadian money. So that's like $1,800 US at today's exchange rate. And we've gotten 2 years of pretty trouble-free driving out of it. No major catastrophes. We've done some upgrades, the headlights, the wheels, the tires, now the suspension. We put a big stereo in it. All those videos are available right up here in Grandma's playlist if you guys want to go back and see everything that we've done to this thing. Very, very shortly, we're likely going to be doing a Marty tune. If you don't know what a Marty tune is, well, it's basically tuning the engine. These things came stock roughly around 230 horsepower. A Marty tune doesn't give you a whole lot more, but it certainly makes it work a little bit more efficient. Between the gear ratios, timing, fueling, all that stuff, and try and get a little bit more performance out of that stock AOD transmission. We want it to shift a little bit quicker. We just want to have a little bit more performance. The car works great the way it is, but hey, if it's available, $500 US, you get a hold of Marty Ox, and Marty will get you set up with one of these tunes. So that's all there is for this episode. I don't want to drag it out any further than we have to. We got these ball joints, upper control arms done, struts. Didn't take very long at all. I come over here at 10 o'clock this morning. My time, it's 10 to 12. So in less than 2 hours with filming, I was able to get everything done. All I got to do now is put the wheels and tires back on and put my tools away, and I'm done. Once again, guys, if you're not subscribed to Olde Carr Guy, we've got lots and lots of content on several different projects. We've got Grandma, we've got Blackjack, the lifted Grand Marquis, the black one. We've got the Yugo, a project coming up very soon. We've also got Dale the truck, my 77 C10, and we've also got the 79 Chrysler Cordoba. We're likely going to be doing some more work on that with maybe fuel injection, getting cruise control and air conditioning put back in that car so that we can get more driving out of it. It's a dream to cruise in, and I just want to be able to do that. It's not so fun with no cruise and no air conditioning. I'm spoiled that way. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, stay focused on the windshield, not the rear view mirror. I love you guys, God bless. We'll do it again in the next video.